has been arrested over the shooting murder of his partner in the New South Wales Hunter region. Police were called to a Maitland home just after 3 a.m. following reports of shots being fired. Officers surrounded the property and a 60-year-old man walked out and was arrested. The body of a woman was found inside. A second woman at the scene wasn't
hurt. A woman
hurt.
is dead and up to 26 people injured after a car crashed into a funeral gathering in the state's far north. Michelle Jensen, some of the injured are being treated in Cairns.
Sharon, they're being airlifted from the remote community of Kowanyama after a man allegedly drove a council vehicle into a house on purpose following a dispute at a funeral viewing. The crash happened around 10:30 this morning. More than 24 people were injured, some seriously. A 48-year-old woman was killed at the house. Police say the people inside were relatives of a 55-year-old man who has been arrested.
There are indications that there may have been some sort of dispute at a funeral, and this is a result of that.
The Royal Flying Doctor Service is airlifting 18 patients to hospitals in Cairns and Townsville. 3 arrived here this afternoon and more flights are due to land later tonight. And doctors and nurses will remain in the community over the weekend. Detectives are being flown into Kowanyama and no charges have been laid yet.
A business owner in Melbourne's southeast has had a sawn-off shotgun pointed at his face after confronting a man who had stolen 2 motorcycle helmets. The thief initially escaped from the store but was chased down by a group of workers.
It's just after lunch in busy Bentley and the female driver of this BMW drops off a passenger who enters the motorbike store. But he has no intention of paying for anything. He picks out the 2 most expensive helmets and escapes. The workers inside quickly give chase. Leading the charge was shop owner James Patrick.
My brain was sort of kicking in going, what are you doing? You shouldn't be here. But then, yeah, had to sort of fight him off a little bit.
James caught up with the thief 100 metres down the road and tackled him to the ground. Then the situation changed dramatically. While waiting for police to arrive, the BMW returned and one of the passengers pulled out a sawn-off shotgun.
The thought of seeing a gun pointed at us for such a small thing as well, I couldn't believe it. Yeah. Just something you never really think you're going to see.
Toby wasn't far behind his boss.
We all turned around and I just saw a shotgun pointing out the window.
James says it was clear the thief was only taking part in the crime as a way of settling a debt he had with those people waiting in the BMW. While pinned on the ground, he told the workers from the bike shop that if he didn't go through with it, he'd be stabbed in the face.
He was panicking. He wasn't in sort of a nice state of mind where he'd planned to do this kind of thing. His shoelaces weren't even done up. He lost his shoes on the way out.
No one in the group had their faces covered, so police have strong witness descriptions. And along with the security footage, officers are confident of making arrests soon. Michael Scanlon, 7 News.
Good evening. A Panorama family is in mourning after a devoted mother lost her life in a horrific crash at Bedford Park last night. 2 teenagers in a stolen ute allegedly slammed into her car at close to 200 kilometres an hour, causing it to burst into flames.
Motorists watched in horror as the 15-year-old driver of the stolen ute lost control and slammed into the back of another car.
As soon as the car went bang, flames went up straight away and there was people running everywhere. 2 guys went running that way.
The 2 teenagers fled, leaving a scene of devastation.
I've seen 2 people jump out the car and run up into the bushes.
It's devastating. It makes you want to cry. Seeing it all crumble up in front of you was like, wow, and the flames were so big.
Police arrested the 2 suspects within 40 minutes. One was near the FMC, the other at an Oaklands Park address. The victim is 48-year-old mother of 2, Nicole Elise Tucker. Her family has released a statement saying they are devastated by this senseless death of their beloved wife and mother. They've described Nicole as a loving person, devoted to her family, and say her life has been cut short too early. Police say 2 other drivers were taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Major crash investigators painstakingly examined the scene to recreate the chain of events. They know the ute and Mrs. Tucker's car were both travelling in the same direction towards the city, turning off the expressway onto South Road.
He did hit the rear of the car, and there may have been a concertina effect of that vehicle going across into another carriageway with two other vehicles being involved.
Police will allege the 15-year-old driver broke into a house at Onkaparinga Hills and stole the ute before going on a joyride with his mate. A police officer on a motorcycle who saw the speeding ute used his red and blue flashing lights to try and pull it over. He turned them off when the ute sped off. It passed another police vehicle seconds before the crash happened.
The green stolen ute passed that marked police car at an estimated speed of in excess of 160 kilometres an hour.
The crash blocked off South Road between Sturt and Flagstaff Hill roads for more than 12 hours, causing traffic chaos for peak hour commuters. Doctors, nurses and patients trying to get to and from Flinders Medical Centre were delayed. Some ambulances needed a police escort to get through. There's been public outrage following the tragedy.
To think that some innocent people sitting at lights, well, one of them's lost their lives apparently, is, pretty devastating.
It's horrible. And those young kids, they should be locked up forever.
Peter Caldecott, 7 News.
And Fraser Goldsworthy joins us from South Road. Fraser, traffic's flowing freely there now.
It certainly is, Jane, but it was a very different story this morning with the accident happening here near the entrance to the Southern Expressway. The peak hour commute for thousands of motorists ground to a halt. This was because South Road between Marion and Sturt roads remained closed all night and for most of the morning. As you can see, vehicles were backed up on the city-bound lanes of the expressway for kilometres as major crash investigators tried to piece together exactly what happened here and what led to the tragic crash last night.
We appreciate the understanding that they've shown in what has been a tragic incident, as I've said. Because of the nature of the incident and the scale, it has taken some time to review and analyse the scene, which is essentially a crime scene.
The inconvenience is nothing really compared to these poor people that have lost their lives.
Of course, this was on top of the delays caused by roadworks on this part of South Road as part of the Darlington upgrade.
And just in tonight, we now know the name of the man killed by police on the CU campus after he showed up with a machete. He is 28-year-old Brandon Simmons of Thornton. Police say Simmons got into some sort of fight yesterday and followed a patient inside the sports medicine facility on the CU
Well,
campus.
it was just after lunchtime yesterday here on Lenore Drive in Erskine Park in Sydney's West that this tragic accident took place. Now, the investigation is still very much in its infancy, but police believe that one of the trucks has crossed onto the other side of the road, colliding with the other truck. Now, that truck that it collided with had just left the brickyard, which is just a couple of 100 metres here from where the accident took place. Now, we spoke with both families of those victims this morning. Let's have a listen to what they had to say.
He was a great man, a family man, professional driver, very careful.
How kind he was and always, giving and, just being there for everyone, no matter what.
Now, as you can see from the vision obtained by 7 News, the flames on those trucks were so ferocious that it took crews a while to extinguish those flames, and also for crash investigators to actually get in and establish exactly what happened.
Yesterday highlights that anyone potentially is vulnerable on our roads. Some people are obviously more vulnerable than others, but yesterday was a terrible collision, traumatic for everyone.
Now, the damage to these two trucks was so severe, police say it could be several weeks until they can determine exactly how one of these trucks has crossed the road, causing this head-on crash. They're also calling for witnesses that may have seen the accident to please come forward.
A man is being charged over a violent rampage on a Melbourne train. Witnesses say the 41-year-old man was acting erratically as a train pulled into Hawthorn Station yesterday afternoon. He allegedly started biting and stomping on a 73-year-old woman. He's then accused of getting off the train and pushing a 14-year-old boy onto the tracks before assaulting a 54-year-old man. 6 passengers managed to restrain him until police arrived. He's been charged with multiple offences, including committing an offence while...
Right now, it's 5:02 this morning, breaking overnight. A new incident involving a clown in South Tulsa this morning. Police say a man was walking near East 61st and Highway 169 when a clown came out of the woods. They say that clown tried to steal the man's bike. When the victim refused, the clown took out a knife and cut that victim's arm. That cut was not life-threatening. The clown then ran back to the woods. Police say the clown's face was painted half white and half black.
storm will kill you. Time is running out. We don't have that much time left.
Police say the call came in as a domestic disturbance. Prosecutors say Peter Emanuel used this piece of heavy equipment to knock over a crane that was being operated by his brother.
And that you recklessly engaged in conduct which places or may place another in danger of serious bodily injury, and that you used a front-end loader as a deadly weapon in the manner in which it was used to tip over a crane while your brother Stanley Emanuel was on the crane.
When police arrived at the Zero Waste Company, they say Peter Emanuel was outside of the loader inside a large warehouse. When police tried to get his attention, officials say Emanuel climbed back into the vehicle and drove backwards at a cruiser that was parked behind him.
One officer pulls his weapon and another officer pulls the taser, trying to get the defendant to stop. The defendant ultimately stops 4 feet from the cruiser while Sergeant Luigi is still in the cruiser.
Authorities say Emanuel then drove to another section of the yard where he got into a trash truck and took off. Emanuel was found about 2 hours later at another location and arrested without incident. Officials say things could have turned out much worse.
It was a very dangerous situation because it's a large piece of equipment and he's in control. So we basically tried to formulate a plan. Thankfully, nobody was hurt, but the potential was there for somebody to lose their life.